Good afternoon, my dear students. Welcome back to your social science class. In our last class, we have discussed about the different institutions of government. We did a detailed study about the executive, or you can say about the political executive. Now, today I am going to tell you the difference between political executive and permanent executive. So, what is the difference between political executive and permanent executive? See, students, the political executive they comprises basically of the ministers, or you can say the president, prime minister, and his council of ministers. Whereas the permanent executive they comprises of the civil servants, or you can say IAS, IPS, police, they all comprises of the permanent executive. Now, this political executive they comes to power together for a term of 5 years and they gets removed from their office also together. But what about the permanent executive? The permanent executive are not elected by the people. They are appointed. Okay. They have been appointed based on their merit. They have appeared for the exam. They have passed the examination. They have proved their eligibility. They have given the interview. Then they have got appointed for that particular position. So their position is permanent unless and until they does any sort of malpractice or they gets involved in any sort of corruption. Okay. Now, this political executive, their term is for 5 years, and after 5 years, they may again get re-elected for that particular position. But the permanent executive, they serve till the retirement age, or you can say that their term is of is fixed up to 60 years. They after 60 years they retires and they gets removed from their office. Okay. Now again the political executives they are accountable directly to the people. Okay. The political executive they are accountable to the people, or you can say on behalf of the people they are accountable to the legislature, or you can say on behalf of the people they are answerable to the legislature. And if they fails to satisfy the legislature, as I told you yesterday, then the legislature passes a vote of no confidence motion against the executive, and in that case the entire ministry, that is the prime minister along with his council of ministers, will have to resign from their office. Okay. But what about the permanent executive? The permanent executives are directly accountable to the people but not to the political ministers. This permanent executive they works for us, they serves us. Okay, they directly serves us. Okay, and they are directly accountable to us, they are directly answerable to us, but they are not answerable to the political ministers. Okay, so this is the difference between political executive and permanent executive. Okay, so now we shall move on to the other wings or to the other organ of the government, that is the legislature. Okay, so students, on your screen there is a picture. Can you guess the place? Yes, it is the Indian Parliament. Okay, so I think you know what are the two houses of parliament. The two houses of the parliament are Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Okay, so what is the difference between Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha? The Lok Sabha, it has 552 members, all are directly elected by us. That's why Lok Sabha is known as House of People. Only 2 to 3 members are nominated by the president from the Anglo-Indian community. Whereas the Rajya Sabha has only 250 members. Okay, and out of that 250 members, 238 are elected through proportional representation and rest 12 are nominated by the president from among the people who have achieved excellence in the field of art, science and literature. Okay, now what is the difference in their term? The term of Lok Sabha is 5 years. All the ministers, they comes to power together and they gets removed from their office also together. But in case of Rajya Sabha, what happens? Rajya Sabha is a quasi permanent house, or you can say that one third of its member retires after every 2 years, and the term of each member of Rajya Sabha is 6 years. Okay, so this is another difference. What about the presiding officer of both the house? The presiding officer of Lok Sabha is the speaker, whereas the presiding officer of the Rajya Sabha is the vice president of India. Okay. Now, they both are responsible for maintaining discipline at the floor of the house. This is their difference. Okay. Now, the what are the qualifications required for becoming a member of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha? The qualification required for becoming the member of Lok Sabha are: a person should be a citizen of India, he or she should not be less than 25 years of age, should have their name registered in the voters list, should not be an undischarged insolvent or a criminal, should have a sound mind, and should not hold any office or profit under any governmental organization. These are the criteria required for becoming a member of Lok Sabha. But what about the Rajya Sabha? Rajya Sabha, for becoming a member of Rajya Sabha, a person should not be less than 30 years. In Lok Sabha, it is 25 years. In case of Rajya Sabha, it is 30 years. Okay, and rest, all the other qualifications are more or less same for becoming a member of Rajya Sabha. It is same as Lok Sabha. Okay. Now, we will now study about the powers and functions of the legislature. What are the powers, differences in powers and functions of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha? First, we will discuss about the legislative power. Okay, when it comes to legislative power, first we shall talk about the ordinary bill. Now, see students, an ordinary bill can originate in any of the house of the parliament. It can originate in the Lok Sabha also, or it may originate in the Rajya Sabha also. If an ordinary bill originates in the Lok Sabha, then after getting passed from the Lok Sabha, the bill directly goes to the Rajya Sabha. Okay, and it gets passed from Rajya Sabha, then it goes to the president, and the president goes through the bill, gives his accent, and it becomes a law. And if a bill originates in the Rajya Sabha, the bill then goes to the other house, that is to the Lok Sabha, and again it goes to the president. The president gives his accent and it becomes a law. Okay, this happens in case of an ordinary bill. But what about a money bill? In case of a money bill, the money bill originates only in the Lok Sabha, or a budget session also occurs only in the Lok Sabha. Rajya Sabha can only merely delay the bill for 14 days. Okay, after a bill originates in the Lok Sabha, the bill goes to the Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha only goes through the bill clause by clause, and then it has to send the bill back to the Lok Sabha within 14 days. And if the Rajya Sabha feels that certain changes has to be made in that bill, it may suggest some recommendation, but again it depends upon the Lok Sabha whether to accept that recommendation or not. Okay, and if the Lok Sabha feels that no recommendation should be done in the bill, then the bill is seen to get passed by the parliament. Okay, then if the Rajya Sabha, it may happen that the Rajya Sabha does not send the bill back to the Lok Sabha within 14 days, then what will happen? Then the Lok Sabha will think that the bill has been already passed, and the president asks for the bill from the Rajya Sabha, signs it, and makes it a law. Okay, so this happens in case of a money bill. Now, these are the legislative power. But what about the executive power? First of all, I told you yesterday also that Indian Parliament is a very complicated one. Okay, the member of the legislature are themselves the member of the executive. Okay, now the Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers are themselves the member of legislature. So you can say that the legislature is connected to the executive. Okay, and apart from that, the legislature plays a very vital role in controlling the executive. Specifically, the oppositions, they try to control the executive. Okay, and in that case, the executive is answerable or accountable collectively as well as individually to the legislature. Otherwise, a vote of no confidence motion may be passed against the executive, and the prime minister, along with his council of minister, will have to resign in that case. Okay, so this here goes your executive power. Next comes your judicial power. What are the judicial power? See, students, in case of judicial power, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, they plays a very important role when it comes to the impeachment of a president. Not only that, not only that, in fact, by becoming a member as the prime minister, he himself is a member of legislature as well as a member of executive. So at the same time, he also participates in the election of the president, the vice president, and also the chief justice and the other judges of the Supreme Court. Okay, the chief justice and the other judges of the Supreme Court are appointed by the president after consulting with the prime minister and his council of ministers. Okay, so this is another executive judicial power, you can say. It is a judicial power of the legislature also, because the prime minister and his council of ministers, they themselves are the member of legislature also. Okay, so this only. Now, what are the constitutional power? Now, see, students, our constitution is partly rigid and partly flexible. So changes can be done in the constitution, but only in few places, not everywhere. Certain laws are there in our constitution which cannot be altered, whereas certain laws are there in our constitution which can be flexibly changed, but there is a procedure. Okay, what is that procedure? If a if a law has to be changed in the constitution, then a bill has to be passed by two-third majority in the parliament, and over here the Lok Sabha as well as the Rajya Sabha both plays equally powerful role in amendment of a constitution. Okay, so these are all about the powers of the parliament. Okay, now next we will move on to the judiciary. See, students, our Indian judiciary is a three-tiered system. Okay, in Indian judiciary, at the apex or at the top, you have the Supreme Court of India. There is only one Supreme Court in India, that is at Delhi. Okay, next you have High Court at the state level. What do you have? Next, you have High Court at the state level. Now, almost all the states in India are having a High Court, apart from few northeastern states. Okay, because the population is very less over there, that's why only few states does not have individual high court. They may be connected to some other state. Okay, otherwise almost all the states are having a state high court. Okay, now at the district level you have your the district court, or you can say subordinate courts. Okay, these courts are also known as subordinate courts. And at the village level or at the panchayat level you have the nyay panchayat. Okay, so this is your entire judiciary system. Now we will start from the Supreme Court. See, students, the Supreme Court is the highest court of appeal. Okay, this is the highest court of appeal. Or you can also say that the Supreme Court is also the final interpreter of the Constitution. Not only that, it also acts as a guardian of our fundamental rights. Okay, now what is the composition of the Supreme Court? The Supreme Court has 21 Chief Justice of India and 25 other judges. The Supreme Court, I'm repeating it once again, that the Supreme Court has a Chief Justice of India and it also has 25 other judges. Okay, now this Chief Justice of India and 25 judges are appointed by the President after consulting with the Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers. Okay, and they remains in their office till they attains the age of their retirement. Okay, their salary and allowances are charged from the Consolidated Fund of India. And not only that, the Chief Justice of India is removed from his office by the same process as the President is removed, that is, by the process of impeachment. The Supreme Court enjoys several jurisdictions. The first of that is the original jurisdiction. See, students, being the highest court of appeal, the Supreme Court enjoys certain superpowers, like it can resolve disputes between two states. It may resolve dispute between the center and state. Not only that, it also resolves dispute between two or more states. Okay, the Supreme Court over here plays a very vital role. Not only that, writs also falls within the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. What are writs? Writs are the special powers of the Supreme Court that are used by them while protecting our fundamental rights. Writs of mandamus, writs of habeas corpus, writs of certiorari, prohibition, and quo warranto. These are the five kinds of writs that are utilized by the Supreme Court, or these are the special jurisdictions and special power of the Supreme Court which are utilized by them just to protect our fundamental rights. Okay, now apart from this, the Supreme Court also has certain appellate jurisdiction. What are the appellate jurisdictions of the Supreme Court? The C students, the Supreme Court always hears appeals against the lower court. Suppose if you file a case in subordinate court and the court gives you verdict, if you are not satisfied with it, you may go to the high court. And even after getting a verdict for high court, if you are not satisfied still, then you may definitely appeal to the Supreme Court. Okay, and if also, it may also happen that sometime the high court is making a lot of delay, okay, while giving a judgment or giving a verdict. In that case, the Supreme Court may pick up the case from High Court and give its verdict. Okay, it can happen in that way also. So this all falls within the appellate jurisdictions of the Supreme Court. Okay, next we will move on to the High Court. So as I told you, the High Court in India is almost there in all the states. Apart from few states, only in few states you don't have a High Court. Okay, otherwise all the states in India has a High Court. Okay, now see students, the High Court, it also enjoys certain jurisdiction. Okay, now what are the jurisdictions of the High Court? The jurisdictions of the High Court are: the High Court hears appeals against the lower courts. If you are not satisfied with the decisions of the Supreme, subordinate court, then you may definitely go to the High Court. Not only that, in fact, if any dispute arises within a state, then the High Court interferes into the matter and tries to resolve that matter. And as I told you, if your fundamental rights are violated, what will happen in that during that time? During that time, the Supreme Court may ask the concerned state to deal with the matter and to provide you justice. Okay, so these are the jurisdiction of the two major courts. Now next comes your district court. What about the district courts? The district courts hears petty cases. Okay, Petty cases means, yes, it definitely hears criminal cases as well as civil cases. Okay, but it usually never gives you a death sentence. Okay, if it's unable to deal with the cases, then it definitely transfers the case to the higher court. Okay, and next comes your nyay panchayat. Nyay panchayat does not gives you any sort of punishment. It only tries to resolve the matter. Not only that, it looks after the development of the panchayat, and it also sometimes does monetary fine if any person does any sort of crime. Okay, so here I gave you a complete idea about the court. Now, next, one most important thing that is there in your book is independence of judiciary. See students, I told you last day that the in our country we have a parliamentary form of government. So what happens, the parliament, that is the legislature, and the executive, they are interrelated to each other, whereas this judiciary has been kept separate from the other two organs of the government. Okay, or you can say that we have an independent judiciary. Now, why do we have an independent judiciary? We have an independent judiciary so that the courts can work for protection of your fundamental rights in an unbiased way. Not only that, so that the courts or the judiciary can check and balance the activities of the government. It can prevent the government from becoming despotic. These are the few reasons for which we need an independent judiciary. Okay, so this is all about the chapter, and I've already given you few question answers from the chapter. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you and have a nice day.